The galaxy had a name for humans. They called them the soft species. It was not meant as an insult. Not exactly. It was simply what everyone believed. For 120 years, humanity had been part of the Galactic Concord, and in all that time, they had never started a war. They built embassies instead of battleships. They sent artists instead of soldiers. They answered threats with words, and they answered violence with patience. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood on the observation deck of the defense station orbiting Earth and watched the stars. His uniform was clean and pressed, covered in medals that meant nothing. He commanded Earth's defense fleet, but it was a small fleet, old and poorly funded. The politicians said there was no need for warships. Humanity had friends now. Humanity had peace. Tae-ho did not believe in peace. He believed in preparation. Behind him, the door opened, and a young officer stepped through. "Admiral, the ambassador's ship has arrived at New Busan. She reports the negotiations are going well." Tae-ho nodded but did not turn around. "Of course they are. Ambassador Kang is the best we have." This was true. Kang Yuna had spent 30 years building bridges between humanity and the other species of the galaxy. She had stopped 3 wars before they started. She had written treaties that were studied in schools across 100 worlds. When she spoke, even the most aggressive species listened. She was currently on New Busan, a colony world on the edge of human space. The Velthari Dominion had been testing their borders for years, sending ships into human territory, making threats, pushing and pushing to see what would happen. The answer was always the same. Humanity would talk. Humanity would negotiate. Humanity would find a peaceful solution. The Velthari thought this meant humans were weak. Tae-ho knew better, but no one listened to him. On New Busan, Ambassador Yuna sat across from the Velthari delegation and smiled. The Velthari were tall creatures, their skin gray and rough like stone, their eyes black and empty. They did not smile. They did not understand why humans did. "We are pleased to announce," Yuna said, her voice calm and warm, "that after 3 months of discussion, we have reached an agreement. The Velthari Dominion and the Human Federation will sign a non-aggression pact. Our borders will be respected. Our people will live in peace." The Velthari commander, a massive creature named Draxus, leaned forward. His voice was deep and cold. "You speak of peace as if it is a gift you are giving us." "It is a gift we give each other," Yuna replied. "That is what peace means." Draxus stared at her for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You are strange creatures, humans. You have weapons. You have ships. You have the ability to fight, and yet you choose not to. Why?" Yuna's smile did not change. "Because we remember what war costs. We remember the blood and the fire and the children who never grow up. We choose peace because we know what the alternative looks like." "You think we do not know war?" Draxus asked. "I think you have forgotten what it means to lose one." The room was silent. The other Velthari shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke to Overlord Draxus this way. But Yuna was not afraid. She had faced worse than him. Finally, Draxus stood. "Very well, Ambassador. We will sign your treaty. We will respect your borders." He paused at the door and looked back at her. For now, the treaty was celebrated across human space. News channels called it a triumph of diplomacy. Politicians gave speeches about the power of words over weapons. Schools taught children that this was how humans solved problems, with patience and understanding. Admiral Tae-ho watched the celebrations from his station and felt cold. He requested a meeting with the Earth Council. They gave him 15 minutes. "The Velthari are not our friends," he told them. "They signed this treaty because they are not ready to fight us yet. They are building their forces. They are testing our defenses. When they are ready, they will come." The council members looked at each other with tired expressions. They had heard this before. "Admiral," the council president said, "we understand your concerns, but we cannot build our policy on fear. The treaty is signed. The Velthari have given their word. Their word means nothing. That is your opinion. The diplomatic corps disagrees." Tae-ho leaned forward. "I have studied the Velthari for 20 years. I know how they think. They see our kindness as weakness. Every time we choose peace, they believe it is because we cannot choose war. They are waiting for the right moment to prove themselves right. The president shook her head. We will not become warmongers because of your suspicions. Humanity is better than that. We have evolved beyond violence. No species evolves beyond violence, Tejo said quietly. They only choose to set it aside, and any choice can be unmade. The council dismissed him. He returned to his station and continued to watch the stars. On New Busan, Dr. Baek Sunwoo walked through the streets of the capital city and smiled. He was a xenolinguist, a scholar who studied alien languages and cultures. He had spent his life believing that understanding was the key to peace. If species could truly communicate, truly see each other, they would never choose violence. The city was beautiful. 4 million people lived here. Humans and aliens side by side. There were markets selling food from 100 worlds. There were theaters performing plays in 12 languages. There were children playing in parks, laughing in sounds that needed no translation. This was what humanity had built. Not an empire, but a community. Not conquest, but connection. Sun Wu stopped at a small cafe and ordered tea. The owner was a Velthari, one of the few who had chosen to live among humans. His name was hard to pronounce, so everyone called him Bo. You look happy today, Doctor, Bo said as he served the tea. The treaty was signed. Peace is official now. Bo made a sound that might have been agreement, but his black eyes were troubled. You do not seem pleased, Sun Wu observed. I know my people, Bo said quietly. I know what they say about humans when humans are not listening. Be careful, Doctor. Peace is a word. Words can be broken. Sun Wu thanked him for the tea and left. But the warning stayed with him. 3 weeks later, the Velthari ships arrived. They called it a cultural exchange mission. 50 warships, the largest ever assembled in human space, entering the New Busan system with weapons armed and shields raised. Ambassador Yuna sent a message asking for an explanation. The response came in the form of plasma fire raining from the sky. The soft species was about to learn what the galaxy really thought of them. The first bomb hit the children's hospital. Dr. Baek Sunwoo was 3 blocks away when the sky turned to fire. The sound came a moment later, a roar so loud it seemed to shake the world itself. He fell to his knees, hands over his ears, and watched as a pillar of smoke rose from where the hospital had been. There were no warnings. There were no demands. The Velthari ship simply opened fire. The capital city of New Busan had 4 million people waking up to an ordinary morning. Parents were sending children to school. Workers were traveling to their jobs. Vendors were opening their shops. And then the plasma rained down, and ordinary morning became endless nightmare. Sun Wu ran. He did not know where he was running, only that he had to move. Buildings collapsed around him. People screamed. The air itself seemed to burn, hot and thick with ash, and the smell of things that should never burn. He found shelter in the basement of a library. 17 other survivors huddled there with him, their faces covered in dust and blood, their eyes empty with shock. No one spoke. What was there to say? Above them, the city died. Ambassador Kang Yuna was in the diplomatic quarter when the attack began. Her guards pulled her into the emergency bunker beneath the embassy, a small room with thick walls and a single communication console. She immediately began broadcasting on all channels. This is Ambassador Kang Yuna of the Human Federation. We are under attack. I repeat, we are under attack. This is a violation of the treaty signed 3 weeks ago. I demand an immediate ceasefire. Please respond. The response came after 10 minutes. Overlord Draxus appeared on her screen, his gray face calm, almost bored. Ambassador, he said. How pleasant to see you again. What is the meaning of this? Yuna demanded. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. We signed a treaty. We agreed to peace. Draxus made that sound again. The one that might have been a laugh. You agreed to peace. We agreed to wait. The waiting is over. This is murder. This is genocide. The Galactic Concord will not stand for this. The Galactic Concord will do nothing. They never do. They will send messages of concern. They will hold meetings. They will express disappointment. And then they will accept what has happened. Because that is what they always do. Draxus leaned closer to the screen. You see, Ambassador, the galaxy respects power, only power. Your words, your treaties, your culture. It all means nothing without the strength to defend it. And you have no strength. Yuna stared at him. You are wrong. Humanity has strength you cannot imagine. Then show me. She opened her mouth to respond, but Draxus cut the communication. A moment later, she heard the bombs falling closer. Her guards tried to protect her. They were good men and women, loyal and brave. They died trying to hold the door. When the Velthari soldiers came, Draxus had Yuna brought to the central square of the burning city. Cameras were set up. The broadcast went out to every world in the galaxy. People of the Concord, Draxus announced, standing beside the kneeling ambassador. This is what happens to those who mistake weakness for wisdom. This is what happens to prey who pretend to be predators. Watch and learn. He looked down at Yuna. Any last words, Ambassador? Yuna raised her head. Her face was bruised, her clothes torn, but her eyes were clear. She looked directly into the camera. We will remember this, she said softly. And you will learn what that means. Draxus drew his blade. The galaxy watched Ambassador Kang Yuna die. Admiral Park Tae-ho received the news while his small fleet was still 3 hours away from New Busan. He had mobilized the moment the first reports came in, pushing his old ships to their limits. But he was too late. He had always known he would be too late. When his fleet finally arrived, the bombardment was over. The Velthari ships were gone. Moving on to their next target, New Busan hung in space like a wounded animal, smoke rising from 100 cities, fires burning across entire continents. Tae-ho took a shuttle down to the surface. He needed to see. He needed to understand. The capital was gone. Not damaged, not destroyed, but gone. Where 4 million people had lived that morning, there was only ash and rubble and silence. The buildings had collapsed into themselves. The streets were buried under debris. The air was thick with smoke that burned his lungs. He walked through the ruins for hours. His officers tried to stop him, tried to tell him it was not safe. But he ignored them. He had to see. He found the body of a child near what had been a school. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, still clutching a stuffed animal. She had not died in the bombing. She had died later, trapped under rubble, slowly, and alone. Tae-ho knelt beside her. He did not cry. He had forgotten how. He stayed there until one of his officers found him. Admiral, the young woman said softly, we need to go. There are survivors. We need to help them. Tae-ho looked up at her. How many? We estimate 400,000. Maybe less. 400,000. Out of 4 million. The Velthari, he said. Where did they go? They are moving toward the inner colonies. They have broadcast a message to Earth. What does it say? The officer hesitated. Then she played the recording. Overlord Draxus appeared on the screen. The burning city behind him. People of Earth, he said. Your culture means nothing. Your art means nothing. Your words mean nothing. You are prey pretending to be people. We are coming for you, and when we arrive, you will learn what you truly are. The recording ended. Tae-ho stood up slowly. He looked down at the dead child one more time. Then he looked at his officer. Send a message to Earth Command, he said. His voice was quiet, but something in it made the officer step back. Tell them we have lost New Busan. Tell them what the Velthari have done. Tell them what Draxus said. Yes, Admiral. What else? Tae-ho looked up at the smoke-filled sky. Somewhere out there, the Velthari fleet was moving toward more human worlds. More cities. More children. Tell them, he said, that we are done asking for peace. On Earth, the news arrived in the middle of the night. It spread like fire through the networks, through the streets, through the hearts of 10 billion people. They watched the footage. They saw the bombs falling. They saw Ambassador Yuna die. They heard Draxus call them prey. For one long moment, humanity was silent. A silence so deep and so complete that it seemed to swallow the world. Then the silence ended. And what replaced it was something the galaxy had never seen, something the galaxy would never forget. The United Assembly Hall in Seoul could hold 10,000 people. On the day of the declaration, it was filled to the last seat, and millions more watched from screens across the planet. President Cho Min-ha walked to the podium alone. She was a small woman, 63 years old, with gray hair and kind eyes. Before becoming president, she had been a professor of galactic history. She had spent her life studying how civilizations rise and fall, how wars begin and end, how species change when they are pushed too far. She had never expected to witness such a change herself. The hall was silent as she reached the podium. She looked out at the faces before her. Faces filled with grief and rage and something else. Something she recognized from her studies but had never seen in person. It was the look of a species that had made a decision. 3 days ago, she began, her voice clear and steady. The Velthari Dominion attacked our colony of New Busan. They killed 3.8 million of our people. They murdered our ambassador on galactic broadcast. They called us prey. She paused. The silence was absolute. For 120 years, humanity has been part of the galactic concord. In all that time, we have never started a war. We have built embassies instead of armies. We have answered hatred with patience. We have believed, truly believed, that peace was possible if we only tried hard enough. She looked down at her notes, then pushed them aside. The galaxy calls us the soft species. They think we cannot fight. They think we have forgotten how. They are wrong. She pressed a button, and images appeared on the screens behind her. Old images, ancient images, humans killing humans in trenches filled with mud and blood, mushroom clouds rising over cities, soldiers marching through ruins while civilians fled. This is who we were, Minha said. This is who we chose not to be. For 1,000 years, we made war on each other with weapons of terrible power. We burned our own world. We killed our own children. We looked into the face of extinction and decided, finally, to turn away. The images changed. Now they showed the great works of the past century. The embassy on Kelthar Prime. The cultural center on the Ring World. The peace treaties signed with 12 species. This is who we became. We made a choice. A conscious choice. To be better. To be kind. To extend our hand in friendship to every species we met. We thought, perhaps, that we could teach the galaxy what we had learned. She paused again. When she spoke, her voice was harder. We were wrong. The screens went dark. The Velthari did not see our kindness as a gift. They saw it as weakness. They did not see our patience as wisdom. They saw it as fear, and so they came to our world and killed our people and laughed while they did it. Minha leaned forward. They think we cannot fight. They think we have evolved beyond violence. They have forgotten something important. We did not evolve beyond violence. We chose to set it aside. And any choice can be unmade. She straightened. I am here today to announce that choice. From this moment forward, the Human Federation declares a state of total war against the Velthari Dominion. We will not negotiate. We will not discuss. We will not ask for peace. We will take it. The hall erupted. People were on their feet, shouting, some crying, some simply staring at the screens with faces of stone. Minha waited for the noise to fade. 100 years ago, our military developed a series of plans for total war. They were called the Prometheus Protocols. They were designed for a threat so great that normal rules of engagement would not apply. They were locked away and forgotten because we believed we would never need them. She looked directly into the cameras. Today, by unanimous vote of the United Assembly, the Prometheus Protocols are activated. In shipyards across human space, lights came on. Machines that had been silent for decades began to move. Weapons that had been sealed in vaults were brought into the light. Admiral Park Tae-ho, Minha continued, has been appointed Supreme Commander of the Human Retaliation Fleet. He has full authority to conduct this war as he sees fit. His orders are simple. Find the Velthari. Destroy their ability to make war. Ensure they never threaten humanity again. On the screen, Tae-ho's face appeared. He looked older than he had 3 days ago. Older and colder. I accept this duty, he said. And I make this promise. Every name, every life, Every child who died on New Busan will be answered. The Velthari will learn what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. The broadcast ended, but the declaration was not finished. In the following days, humanity transformed. Factories that had made art supplies began making weapons. Universities that had studied alien cultures began studying alien weaknesses. Young people who had never imagined fighting lined up at recruitment centers in numbers that overwhelmed the system. Dr. Baek Sun-woo, who had survived the massacre by hiding in a library basement, was brought to Earth. He was given a new role, the voice of the dead. His duty was simple. Before every military operation, he would read the names of the 3.8 million who died on New Busan. Every single name. It would take hours, sometimes days, but it would be done. We do this so we do not forget, President Minha explained. We do this so we remember why we fight. Not for conquest, not for revenge, for the dead, who deserve to be remembered, and the living, who deserve to be protected. The galaxy watched these developments with confusion and concern. This was not how the soft species was supposed to behave. They were supposed to mourn. They were supposed to negotiate. They were supposed to accept their place at the bottom of the galactic order. Instead, they were building warships faster than anyone thought possible. They were developing weapons that made other species nervous. They were moving with a unity and purpose that no one had ever seen from them. The Galactic Concord sent a delegation to Earth, hoping to mediate. President Minha met with them once. We ask you to consider peace, the lead ambassador said. War will only lead to more death. Minha smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We considered peace for 120 years. We offered peace to everyone we met. We believed in peace with all our hearts. And 3.8 million of our people are dead because of it. Violence is not the answer. No, Minha agreed. But sometimes violence is the question. And the answer is yes. The delegation left. They reported back to their governments that something fundamental had changed in humanity. Something that could not be undone. Overlord Draxus received reports of these developments and laughed. Let them build their ships, he told his commanders. Let them make their speeches. They are still prey. When we meet them in battle, they will run. As prey always does. He was wrong, but he would learn that soon enough. 6 months after the declaration, the human retaliation fleet emerged from slipspace at the edge of Velthari territory. The ships were not like anything the galaxy had seen before. They were angular and black, covered in symbols and names. Every hull bore the names of the dead, 3.8 million names written in tiny letters that covered every surface. The flagship was called Yuna's Memory, named for the ambassador who died with a promise on her lips. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood on the bridge and looked at the stars. Somewhere ahead was Keth Prime, the Velthari's main military staging world. Millions of soldiers, thousands of warships, the heart of their war machine. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the Velthari have detected us. They are mobilizing their fleet. Tae-ho nodded. How many ships? 3,000, sir. Plus planetary defense platforms. 3,000 ships against 800. The numbers were not in humanity's favor. But numbers were not everything. Begin the operation, Tae-ho ordered, and start the reading. Across the fleet, speakers came to life. Dr. Baek Sun-woo's voice filled every ship. Calm and clear. Kim Yeji, age 7, student. Lee Minho, age 42, teacher. Park Soo-jin, age 31, doctor. Choi Dong-wook, age 65, retired engineer. The names would continue for 72 hours. Every person who died on New Busan, remembered as the fleet went to war. The Velthari commander watched the human fleet approach and felt confident. He had studied human tactics, human weapons, human psychology. They were clever, yes, but they were soft. They would fight for a while, then seek to negotiate. That was what humans did. He was about to learn that the humans he had studied no longer existed. The first wave of human weapons were autonomous drones. Millions of them. Pouring out of carrier ships like swarms of insects, they moved with a coordination that seemed almost alive, adapting to every Velthari countermeasure, learning from every attack. The Velthari fighters tried to intercept them. The drones simply flowed around them, ignoring some, destroying others, always moving toward their targets. Within an hour, the Velthari defense platforms were gone. "What is this?" the commander demanded. "What kind of weapons are these?" His officers had no answer. These weapons should not exist. The soft species should not have things like this. The second wave was worse. Kinetic bombardment swarms. Thousands of metal rods dropped from orbit at incredible speeds. They hit the Velthari fleet with the force of small nuclear explosions, punching through shields that were supposed to be impenetrable. Ships began to die. Not human ships. Velthari ships. On the bridge of Yuna's memory, Lieutenant Han Ji-won watched the battle with wide eyes. She was 24 years old, a pilot who had never seen real combat. She had grown up believing that humanity was beyond this kind of violence. Now she watched Velthari cruisers break apart under human fire, their crews dying in the cold of space, and she felt something she had never felt before. She felt satisfied. That feeling scared her more than the battle. "Admiral," she said quietly, moving to Taeho's side. "Are we still the good guys?" Taeho did not look at her. His eyes were fixed on the tactical display, watching Velthari ships die one by one. "We are the survivors," he said. "That is what we have always been. But this," Ji-won gestured at the screens, "this is slaughter." "Yes, it is." Taeho finally turned to look at her. His eyes were tired, old, full of something that might have been sorrow. "They killed 3.8 million of our people. They laughed while they did it. They called us prey and expected us to accept it. This is what happens when prey decides to fight back." The Battle of Keth Prime lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the Velthari fleet was destroyed. 2,700 ships, gone. But Taeho did not order the planet destroyed. Instead, he broadcast a message. "People of Keth Prime, we have the power to end your world. We have weapons that can turn your cities to ash, and your oceans to steam. Many would say we have the right. After what your species did to ours." He paused. "But we are not you. We do not kill civilians. We do not murder the innocent. We will take your soldiers. We will take your weapons. We will take your will to fight. But your families will live. Your children will grow up. And they will remember what happened here. They will tell their children, and their children's children, what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness." Human troops landed on Keth Prime. They took the military bases. They destroyed the weapons factories. They captured the soldiers, and they left everything else standing. The civilians watched in confusion. This was not how war worked. The Velthari would have burned everything. Why did the humans stop? The answer came from a young human soldier, speaking to a Velthari child who asked him why they were not killing everyone. "Because we are not you," the soldier said simply. "We never want to be you." Overlord Draxus was captured 3 days later, hiding in a bunker beneath his command center. He was brought before Admiral Taeho in chains. "Kill me," Draxus growled. "Give me an honorable death." Taeho shook his head. "You will not die today. You will live. You will live a long time." He gestured to Dr. Sunwoo, who stepped forward with a datapad. "You killed 3.8 million people," Taeho said. "Dr. Sunwoo is going to read you their names. Every single one. It will take 72 hours. You will listen to all of them." Draxus stared at him in confusion. "That is your punishment?" "Words? No," Taeho said. "That is our memorial. Your punishment is to live with what you have done. To know that every name was a person, with dreams and fears, and families who loved them. To understand that they were not prey. They were people, and you killed them." He turned to leave, then stopped. "When the reading is finished, you will be taken to New Busan. You will spend the rest of your life there, rebuilding what you destroyed. You will walk past the graves every day. You will see the faces of the dead in every stone." Draxus was silent. Sunwoo began reading. Kim Yeji, age 7, student. She wanted to be an artist. Lee Minho, age 42, teacher. He had 3 children and a wife who loved him. Park Sujin, age 31, doctor. She saved 40 lives before she lost her own. The names went on, hour after hour, day after day. And Draxus listened to every single one, across the Velthari Dominion. Other worlds watched what happened at Keth Prime. They saw their fleet destroyed. They saw their commander captured. They saw the humans show mercy where the Velthari would have shown none. One by one, they began to surrender. The war was not over. But the lesson had been taught. 1 year after the war began, it was over. The Velthari Dominion had collapsed. Their military was destroyed. Their territory occupied. Their empire reduced to a handful of small states under human oversight. Overlord Draxus lived on New Busan now, working alongside other prisoners to rebuild the cities he had burned. Every morning, he walked past the memorial stones, past the names of the dead, past the faces that watched him from photographs. He never spoke about what he had learned. But something in his black eyes had changed. The galaxy watched humanity with new eyes. The soft species was gone. In its place was something older, something harder, something that had been sleeping for 100 years and was now awake. President Cho Min-ha addressed the Galactic Concord at their annual summit. Every species was represented, from the ancient Kethanar to the newly contacted Solvani. They sat in silence as the small, gray-haired woman walked to the podium. 1 year ago, she began. We went to war. We did not want to. We had spent over a century building peace, building trust, building bridges between our species and yours. We believed, perhaps foolishly, that the galaxy could be united through understanding. She paused. We were wrong. Not because peace is impossible, but because peace without strength is only temporary. The Velthari saw our kindness and thought us weak. They were not the first to make this mistake. They will not be the last. She looked around the assembly hall, meeting the eyes of ambassadors and leaders from 100 worlds. So let me be clear about what humanity has become. We will build again. We will create again. We will extend friendship to those who deserve it. Our artists will paint. Our poets will write. Our scientists will discover. This is who we are. Her voice hardened. But we have also learned what we are capable of. We have looked into the darkness inside ourselves, the darkness our ancestors knew well. And we have not forgotten what we saw. We carry that darkness with us now. It sleeps, but it is always there. She leaned forward. To any species considering war with humanity, I offer this warning. Our hand is extended in friendship. Take it, and you will find no more loyal ally, no more generous partner, but strike our hand away, harm our people, threaten our children, and you will meet something else entirely. She straightened. We are done being underestimated. We are done being prey. We remember what peace cost us, and we remember what war taught us. We are both the poets and the soldiers, the artists and the warriors, the gentle and the terrible. She smiled, and there was warmth in it, but also something cold underneath. Never forget which one you want to meet. The summit ended in silence. No one knew what to say. The galaxy had changed, and everyone knew it. Admiral Park Tae-ho retired after the war. He had done what needed to be done, but it had cost him something he could not name. He returned to New Busan, to the ruins of the city he had failed to save, and began a new project. He planted a garden. Every day, he worked in the soil among the rubble, planting flowers and trees and vegetables. Survivors would see him there, an old man in simple clothes, kneeling in the dirt with his hands in the earth. Some recognized him. Most did not. A young woman found him there one afternoon. She had been a child during the massacre, one of the 400,000 who survived. Now she was 18, old enough to understand what had happened, young enough to still ask questions. Why do you plant flowers? She asked. This place is full of death. Tae-ho looked up at her. His face was weathered now, lined with age and sorrow. That is exactly why I plant flowers. Because death should not be the end of the story. What is the end? He stood slowly, brushing dirt from his hands. I do not know. That is for you to decide. Your generation and the ones that come after. We taught the galaxy to fear us. Now you must teach them to trust us again. Is that possible? I hope so. He looked out at the ruins, at the memorial stones, at the names carved into every surface. We are both things, you see. The kindness and the violence, the hope and the rage. We cannot pretend to be only one, but we can choose which one to show the world. The young woman thought about this for a long time. Then she knelt beside him and began to plant. Dr. Baek Sunwoo finished his great work 3 years after the war. It was called The Chronicle of Names, and it contained every victim of the New Busan massacre. Not just their names, but their stories, their faces, their dreams, the people they loved and the things they hoped for. It was required reading in every human school. It was translated into 100 languages. It was given to every alien ambassador who visited Earth. We publish this not to inspire hatred. Sunwoo wrote in the introduction. We publish this so the dead are not forgotten. They were people. They had lives, and they deserve to be remembered as more than numbers. Lieutenant Han Ji-won, who had once asked if humanity was still the good guys, became Captain Ji-won. She commanded the first diplomatic vessel of the new era, a ship called the Second Chance. It was armed with the most powerful weapons humanity had ever built. But it flew under a white banner. We come in peace, she would say to every new species they contacted. We mean it. But understand what that means. We choose peace. We can choose otherwise. Most species chose friendship. 10 years after the war, a young alien ambassador visited Earth for the first time. He was from a species called the Torvani, and his government was considering whether to challenge humanity's influence in their region of space. His name was Korath, and he was proud and confident, and believed that the stories about humanity were exaggerated. A human guide was assigned to him, an old veteran named Yoon Hajin. Hajin had fought in the war, had seen things he still dreamed about, had watched friends die and enemies burn. Now he worked at the Earth Cultural Center, showing visitors what humanity had to offer. He took Korath to the museums, the art galleries, the concert halls. He showed him the great paintings and sculptures. He played him the symphonies and operas. He introduced him to the poetry and literature that humanity had created over thousands of years. Korath was impressed, despite himself. Your species creates beautiful things, he admitted. Hajin smiled. Thank you. We are proud of our artists. Then he took Korath to the War Memorial. It was a massive building, filled with weapons and records and faces. The faces of human soldiers throughout history, from ancient warriors with swords to modern pilots in starships. The weapons ranged from clubs and spears to the terrible devices used in the Veltari War. Korath walked through the halls in silence. He saw the photographs from the world wars, the devastation of nuclear exchanges, the long history of human conflict. He saw what humanity had done to itself before it ever reached the stars. At the end of the tour, he turned to Hajin with troubled eyes. Why do you show me this? He asked. I thought you wanted to impress me with your culture. Hajin smiled. It was a warm smile, but his eyes were cold. I do show you our culture, he said. This is part of it. War and art, violence and beauty. They exist together in us. Always have. Always will. He gestured at the walls, at the weapons and the faces. When you see our poets and painters, our musicians and dancers, remember what you have seen here. We are both. We have always been both. He stepped closer, and his voice dropped. Your government is thinking of challenging us. I know this. Everyone knows this. Before you decide, I want you to understand what you are looking at. Our kindness is real. Our friendship is genuine, but so is this. He pointed to a photograph on the wall. It showed the ruins of a Veltari city, smoke rising from collapsed buildings, human soldiers standing among the wreckage. Never forget which one you want to meet. Korath returned home and recommended against challenging humanity. The Torvani became allies instead. Years passed. Humanity continued to build and create and explore. They made new friends and new enemies. They fought when they had to, and made peace when they could. But the galaxy never forgot the lesson of New Busan. They had called humanity soft. They had called humanity prey. They had learned that humans are the only species that chooses to be kind, and unkindness is always, always, an option.